There's a scene in the Bible tucked away in the book of Daniel that hums with a power most of us overlook. It's not splashed across the pages with thunderous pronouncements or miraculous displays. There are no choirs of angels, no earth-shattering earthquakes, and no dramatic parting of seas. Yet within its quiet lines lies one of the most profound and intense spiritual battles ever recorded. This battle wasn't fought with swords and shields, but in the unseen realm, a theater of war where celestial beings clash with demonic forces. It was so fierce, so unrelenting, that an angel dispatched by God to deliver a vital message was delayed for a staggering 21 days. Imagine the weight of that delay, the implications of a message held captive. This celestial messenger was held back, not by a physical barrier, but by a formidable dark power the Bible identifies as the Prince of Persia. This wasn't a human prince, a king of flesh and blood, ruling over earthly domains. Instead, it was a territorial spiritual entity, a demon of immense power strategically positioned to exert control over a region and its people. He was a gatekeeper of darkness strong enough to stand against an angel of God to intercept divine communication and to hold back heaven's will from reaching the earth. Then in a moment that shifts the very atmosphere of the story, Michael arrived. Not just any angel, but Michael the Archangel, the warrior of heaven, the commander of God's celestial armies. When he descended into that unseen realm, he didn't come to parley, to negotiate terms, or to seek a compromise. Michael came with divine authority and unwavering purpose to break the demonic stronghold, to shatter the resistance that held the angel captive, and to clear the path for heaven's message to finally break through. The moment he entered the fray, everything shifted. The balance of power tilted. The chains of delay began to loosen. And here's the remarkable and often missed truth. This monumental clash didn't erupt during a cosmic showdown between rival empires, nor did it coincide with a large-scale war between nations. It happened because of the faithfulness of one man who, driven by a burning desire for understanding and a heart humbled before God, prayed, fasted, and waited patiently. That man was Daniel. His dedication was the catalyst, the spark that ignited a conflict in the heavens. His willingness to persevere in prayer opened a channel for divine intervention. If stories like this resonate within your soul, if they stir a sense of wonder and a longing for deeper understanding of the spiritual realm, then you're in the right place. Let's explore the hidden depths of Scripture together, uncovering the mysteries that reveal the invisible forces shaping our world. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you'll never miss these deep dives into the mysteries hidden within the pages of Scripture. Join us as we seek to understand not only what happened in the past, but also how these timeless truths apply to our lives today. There's a particular kind of silence that can cut deeper than any shout, a silence that feels profoundly unbearable. It's not the comforting silence of a peaceful retreat, the quiet you embrace when seeking rest and renewal. This is the silence that descends after you've poured out your heart to God, after you've laid bare your deepest needs and yearnings, and received no response, no discernible sign, no whisper of divine affirmation. You pray with fervency, but nothing shifts. You fast with discipline, but nothing breaks. You wait with anticipation, but nothing happens. The heavens remain closed, the answers elusive. Have you ever found yourself in that desolate place Daniel had? By the time we encounter him in chapter 10 of his book, he's an old man weathered by the storms of life, seasoned by years of walking with God. He's lived through exile, navigated the treacherous waters of royal courts, faced the terrifying ordeal of the lion's den, and witnessed visions so profound they could shake the foundations of any soul. He's not a novice in the faith, a beginner unsure of the path. This man has walked intimately with God for decades, a testament to his unwavering devotion. And yet here he is, in the twilight of his life, mourning, feeling empty, and waiting with an aching heart. He tells us that he engaged in a period of intense fasting, abstaining from meat, wine, and lotions, from anything that might offer him comfort or pleasure. He embraced a lifestyle of raw, unfiltered grief. We're not explicitly told what he was grieving for, but the overwhelming sense is that he desperately needed clarity, sought deeper understanding, and longed for heaven to speak with unmistakable certainty. But for 21 long days, there was only silence, a complete stillness devoid of angelic visitation, prophetic vision, or the comforting voice of God. I wonder what thoughts and emotions swirled within his mind during that agonizing period of waiting. Did he begin to question whether God had truly heard his prayers? Did he wonder if some hidden sin or overlooked transgression had erected a barrier between himself and heaven? Did he fear that he had somehow fallen out of favor with the Almighty? I can't help but reflect on my own life, on those moments when I was desperate for an answer, pleading for guidance, and yet received nothing in return. Not a whisper of encouragement, not a subtle sign of direction, just the relentless passage of days and the gnawing ache of uncertainty. And then doubt creeps in. Maybe I'm being ignored. Maybe God is deliberately withholding something from me. Maybe I've missed a crucial instruction or failed to meet some unspoken requirement. But Daniel persevered. He refused to abandon his commitment to prayer. He didn't turn away from God in disappointment or disillusionment. He clung to his faith with unwavering tenacity, even though he had no visible evidence that his prayers were making any difference. And he had no idea that while he was kneeling on earth pouring out his soul in humble supplication, a fierce cosmic battle was raging in the realm he couldn't see, a battle that hinged on his faithfulness. The Bible reveals that on the 21st day, Daniel was standing near the banks of the Tigris River, perhaps seeking solace in the beauty of nature, or simply trying to escape the confines of his grief. That's when the extraordinary occurred. He looked up and saw someone, not a person he recognized, not someone from this world, but a being so radiant, so awe-inspiring, that even the men who were with him, though unable to see the figure themselves, were overcome with terror and fled in panic. Daniel was overwhelmed, the strength drained from his body. He collapsed to the ground, unable to breathe, unable to speak. He was completely undone in the presence of something so holy, so powerful, so utterly beyond his comprehension. It was a moment of profound humility, a stark reminder of the vast gulf between humanity and the divine. And then this being spoke. The words were filled with compassion and reassurance. "Do not be afraid, Daniel. From the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words were heard. From the first day, from the very beginning." And this is the part that resonates most deeply, the revelation that challenges our perception of unanswered prayer. Because Daniel thought he had been waiting in silence, but the truth is, heaven had already answered him on day one. The angel continued, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me for 21 days. That's when the entire narrative shifts. The pieces of the puzzle fall into place, and we begin to grasp the true nature of what had been happening behind the scenes. This wasn't a delay born of divine neglect or indifference. This wasn't God dragging his feet or testing Daniel's patience. This was war, a spiritual war of cosmic proportions. This angel had been diligently trying to reach Daniel from the very first day of his prayer, but he was being blocked not by a human obstacle or earthly circumstance, but by a powerful spiritual being, the Prince of Persia, a territorial entity, a dark power whose sole purpose was to thwart the will of God. Just when it seemed that the message might never break through the demonic blockade, Michael the Archangel, the warrior of heaven, the commander of celestial armies, arrived to intervene. The moment Michael entered the fight, the deadlock was broken, the path was cleared, and the answer to Daniel's prayer finally reached earth. That realization stuns me every time I read this passage. Daniel had no knowledge of the battle raging on his behalf. He couldn't see the angelic conflict, nor could he discern the demonic resistance. He simply remained faithful, continued fasting, and persevered in prayer, trusting that God would hear and answer him in his own time and in his own way. And in doing so, he unknowingly held his position for a victory that heaven was already fighting for, a victory that would have been impossible without his steadfast commitment. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for us. What if the silence you're experiencing right now isn't silence at all? What if your prayer has already been heard in the heavenly realms and an answer is already on its way? What if the delay isn't because you're somehow wrong or unworthy, but because darkness is pushing back, attempting to keep you from receiving your breakthrough? Would you still keep praying? Would you still keep showing up in God's presence, even when you don't feel anything, even when there's no immediate sign of progress? That's what Daniel did. And because he did, we were granted a glimpse into the kind of spiritual battles that rage around us, battles that profoundly affect our lives, even though we can't see them with our physical eyes. And when the fight proved too strong for one angel to overcome, Michael came not to offer comfort or platitudes, but to confront the forces of darkness head-on. Daniel is still trembling by the river, his legs weak, his face pressed against the ground. The presence before him is unlike anything he's ever encountered, a manifestation of divine power that exceeds all his previous experiences. And this is a man who's witnessed visions of terrifying beasts, the rise and fall of kingdoms, and even the Ancient of Days himself. But this moment breaks him, humbling him in a way he's never been humbled before. Just as he's losing consciousness, he feels a hand touch him, a hand both soft and gentle, yet charged with divine strength. The hand lifts him to his knees, restoring a measure of stability and allowing him to face the presence before him. Then the voice comes again, resonating with love and affirmation. "Daniel, you who are greatly beloved." Those words, greatly beloved, pierce through everything, through the fear, through the silence, through the weight of waiting. They are a balm to his weary soul, a reminder of God's unwavering affection. Can we pause here for a moment? Because I believe there's someone watching this who desperately needs to hear that you right now, in your confusion, in your hunger for God, in your wrestling with unanswered questions, you are greatly beloved. You are not forgotten, not punished, not pushed aside. You are cherished, treasured, and held close in the heart of God. Beloved, that's the very first thing heaven wants Daniel to understand, and I believe it's what heaven wants you to know too. Before any explanation, before any revelation of the spiritual battle raging on his behalf, comes the simple, powerful affirmation of God's love. Then the angel continues, "From the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words." And this right here, this is where the story flips, where our understanding of the situation is completely transformed. Daniel thought God had been silent for 21 days, indifferent to his pleas. But the truth is, the very day he began to pray, heaven dispatched an answer. His prayers weren't ignored. They were immediately acted upon. But then something happened, something that would challenge everything we thought we knew about spiritual warfare, something that would reveal the unseen forces at play in our lives. The angel says, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me for 21 days. Let that sink in. This wasn't a mere metaphor, a symbolic representation of some abstract concept. This wasn't Daniel's imagination running wild, conjuring up fanciful images. This was a real spiritual being, a high-ranking territorial demonic power standing in direct opposition to a divine messenger. For 3 whole weeks, that prince of darkness stood his ground, blocking the angel's path, holding back the answer to Daniel's prayer, resisting heaven's will. And for a time, he succeeded. Now think about that for a moment. A being so powerful, so deeply embedded in the spiritual systems of Persia, that it could block an angel of God for 21 days. This reveals two crucial truths. First, that our prayers can trigger intense conflict in the unseen realm, and second, that there are spiritual forces actively working to keep us from receiving the answers and blessings that heaven has for us. That might sound frightening, but it's also incredibly liberating. It means your prayers matter. It means your faith has the power to shake things in the spiritual dimension. It means that what you're doing in secret, crying out to God, pressing in with unwavering determination, refusing to give up, despite the silence, is causing a reaction in the heavenly places. You are not powerless. You are a force to be reckoned with. And it was during this invisible deadlock, this intense spiritual tug-of-war, that something extraordinary happened. The angel says, "Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me." And that's the moment everything changed. The tide turned. The balance of power shifted. Michael the Archangel, heaven's warrior, the one Scripture calls the great prince who stands guard over God's people, descended into the battlefield, not to negotiate or mediate, not to observe the conflict from a safe distance, but to engage in the fight with unwavering resolve. And when he arrived, the war tipped decisively in heaven's favor. The blockage was broken. The Prince of Persia was overwhelmed. The angel was released from his captivity, and Daniel's answer finally arrived. Are there any stories more inspiring, more encouraging, more profoundly impactful than this one? And I wonder how many times we've given up on the 20th day, just one day before our breakthrough, never knowing that Michael was already on his way. How many of us have stopped praying because we mistook spiritual warfare for divine rejection, assuming that God was somehow displeased with us? How many of us have been one day away from experiencing a miraculous breakthrough, but walked away in discouragement because we didn't feel anything, because we couldn't see the progress being made in the unseen realm? The Prince of Persia. So let's delve deeper into the identity of this mysterious figure. Who or what was he? Because this wasn't a man, a mortal being. This wasn't some royal advisor to King Cyrus or a Persian general. No earthly man could possibly hold off a heavenly being for 21 days. No, this was something else entirely, something far more sinister and powerful. The language used here, Prince of Persia, refers to a spiritual power, a territorial being operating in the unseen realm. In modern terminology, we might call him a principality, one of the highest ranks in the hierarchy of demonic powers. This being wasn't simply floating around aimlessly causing trouble randomly. He was strategically assigned, deliberately positioned. His specific job was to influence and dominate the spiritual climate of the Persian Empire, the most powerful kingdom on earth at that time. He was tasked with shaping its policies, influencing its leaders, and ultimately hindering the purposes of God in that region. That should make us pause and consider the implications, because it means that nations, kingdoms, and governments, even in our modern era, aren't just political structures or geographical entities. There are spiritual forces actively assigned to shape them, to whisper deceptive ideologies, and to manipulate events on the world stage. That's not superstition or conspiracy theory, it's Scripture. The Apostle Paul speaks of this exact kind of spiritual warfare in Ephesians 6 when he writes, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." Ephesians 6:12. This Prince of Persia was one of those rulers, an ancient, intelligent, and incredibly powerful demonic force. For 21 days, he was winning, blocking God's messenger, holding back the answer to Daniel's prayer, resisting heaven's will. And for a time, he succeeded until Michael showed up. Now think about the level of power that implies the sheer magnitude of demonic influence that it would take Michael the Archangel to overcome him. That tells us this wasn't a minor demon or a low-level spiritual pest. This was a commander of darkness, a formidable adversary who wielded immense power in the unseen realm. And here's what's even more chilling. The battle didn't end when Michael showed up. It just shifted in intensity and scope. The angel speaking to Daniel says something rather unsettling. He says that he must return after delivering the message, "Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I have gone forth indeed, the prince of Greece will come." Daniel 10:20. Wait, what? That means there's another one coming, another principality assigned to the next empire. Greece would rise to prominence after Persia fell, and with it another dark ruler would take his place on the spiritual chessboard, ready to exert his influence and resist the purposes of God. This wasn't just a one-time event, an isolated incident confined to the ancient world. This was part of an ongoing generational global war between spiritual forces, each one aligned with the rise and fall of earthly kingdoms, each one seeking to shape the destiny of nations. And that brings us to a sobering realization: what we see on the news, what we call politics, war, revolution, social unrest. There may be far more behind it than we can possibly imagine. It doesn't mean we should live in constant fear or paranoia, but it does mean we need to wake up and recognize the spiritual forces at play in our world. Because just as these spiritual forces were assigned to empires in ancient times, who's to say there aren't princes of modern nations today? Who's to say that the chaos we experience in our world, the confusion, the deception, the violence, the division, isn't stirred by these same ancient powers? And if that's true, then we need more than clever political policies. We need more than human strategies or well-intentioned social programs. We need people who know how to pray with power and authority, people who are willing to engage in spiritual warfare on behalf of their nation's people like Daniel. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Do you spend more time arguing about politics on social media than you do praying about what's happening in the spiritual realm? Are you fighting the wrong enemy? Because the Bible is clear, our enemy is not flesh and blood. It's not that person who disagrees with you. It's not that leader you dislike. It's not that news anchor or politician you vehemently oppose. The real war is higher, deeper, and far older. So to wrap up this deep dive into Daniel's experience, the heart of the message is that even when we feel like we're praying into silence, heaven hears us. There's a real spiritual battle happening, and our faithfulness in prayer has the power to break through even the toughest resistance. It's a reminder that you are greatly beloved and your prayers truly matter. We've only scratched the surface here, and there's so much more to unpack in this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you the most? Have you ever experienced a similar period of seemingly unanswered prayer? Leave a comment below, ask your questions, and let's keep the conversation going. And of course, if you found this video insightful, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be diving even deeper into this topic in part 2, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Plus, we've got plenty more explorations of the hidden mysteries of Scripture planned for the future. So hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and let's learn and grow together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.